Welcome to the Echelon AI podcast, the show where we explore the future of the insurance industry as it's transformed by AI and share practical strategies to help businesses and professionals thrive. I'm your host, David, the founder of Echelon AI. At Echelon, we help insurance sector businesses scale using the latest technologies to seize a competitive advantage and leap ahead in this fast-paced world. Our guest today is Julie Zimmer, CEO of Lucky Truck, a tech-forward insurance provider specializing in commercial trucking. Julie brings over 3 decades of industry experience, having pioneered the InsurTech space since its inception. Before taking the helm at Lucky Truck, she served as an executive at MBroker, where she built offshore service teams and sales infrastructure from the ground up, and later headed the insurance profit center at Flexport. Julie's unique blend of operational discipline and creative vision has established her as a respected voice on insurance innovation. As both a former board member and now CEO of Lucky Truck, she's challenging conventional insurance models through data-driven technology while advocating for simplification in an unnecessarily complex industry. Julie embodies the rare combination of visionary leadership and practical execution that's reshaping how we think about the insurance in the digital age. Welcome to the show, Julie.
Thank you. What a great introduction.
Well, you certainly have lived up to it. Julie, you've had an incredible journey in the insurance technology space. What inspired your transition from a traditional distribution model to becoming a pioneer in InsurTech back in 2014?
So, I think the biggest piece was being inside a traditional bricks and mortar environment and really embracing the potential and the vision around technology. But at the same time, learning a lot of times the hard way that innovation was going to come from the InsurTech space, from startups, not from your traditional bricks and mortar insurance distribution that had really changed very little in the past 100 years. So, I kept trying to push change, push innovation, but then I woke up one day and realized that it makes more sense for a traditional organization to spend $1 on mergers and acquisitions than to spend $1 on technology, or at least in 2014 it did. So, that's when I made the jump to the InsurTech side. And I'm a little ADD too, so the shiny new thing really gets my attention all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds like you realized maybe the current state of the insurance industry was stuck in its ways, and I think it still is very much today. And you took that as an opportunity to maybe leave from the inside and take a different approach to the industry.
Well, it is true. And that's not to say that there is not, a lot of visionaries in the insurance space. It just takes a really long time and huge investments to move away from legacy systems and to change behaviors in behemoth organizations. So real innovation and experimentation has to come from a more agile, smaller organization or emerging industry like InsurTech.
Would you say that maybe insurance companies are a little too risk averse to take on new technologies in such a big way?
So I think definitely in 2014, and I think if I would have been in their shoes, I may have taken the same position, because ultimately they have to report to shareholders and make hard decisions around where their big bets go. But yes, I think there were a lot of blockers and a lot of speculation about, was this really going to take off? Would customers really buy through technology? And they were supportive in many ways, but by and large stayed on the sidelines to see how it would play out.
So you are a little bit of a visionary with what it is that you're chasing, or why you left your initial roles within the industry. And you've described yourself previously as both an operator by discipline and a creative at core. How has this unique combination shaped your leadership approach at Lucky Truck?
I like to describe myself as a really good bridge, whether a bridge through entrepreneurial and corporate environments, a bridge through business and technology side, things of that nature. I think the most successful InsurTech models have really been built when you don't have those silos of technology and those silos of business that that have this natural conflict, and you're able to bridge them and smooth them and make them work together. And I think that's where I've personally gotten a lot of gratification and seen some success.
So these silos that you're mentioning, right? And these companies and factions of the insurance sector that are sort of operating individually or independently of each other, they exist separately. And I know that it's your belief that they shouldn't, right? They should be.
Right. Since InsurTech became a thing, we've had this, insurance and InsurTech. And I think you and I were talking earlier. I don't think that InsurTech should be a thing anymore because
Mhm.
tech is a part of what we do. It is one thing moving forward, whether people realize it or not. And bucketing it into two different categories I think it holds us back. So I'll just say that, I'll just throw that out there. And a lot of people, I'm sure, will disagree with me. A lot of VCs probably. But at the end of the day, I do believe that siloed approach, and that siloed approach exists because of regulatory issues, existed because of legal issues, because of a whole lot of stuff that goes in to underwriting insurance policies. So I get it, but I think I'm seeing them merge together now more than ever.
So with this belief about, tech and insurance really truly being one or needing to become one more cohesively, how is it that you're leading Lucky Truck with, this vision and perhaps starting to instill that in some of your operations?
Yeah, I think I've always been a believer that you're really going to get innovation and forward motion through what I'll call hyper-verticalization. And that's what intrigued me about Lucky Truck. We are focusing in on one industry, one highly regulated industry, a data-rich industry, and one that's, by the way, very critical to our operation as a country. I mean, almost 90% of all the goods transported are coming through by truck. So focusing on this industry, and with 95% of those people being owner operators or less than 5 units, it's a very important space to get right. So when I look at Lucky Truck, I see a huge opportunity to really improve the way we do things. Now, it's also a space where we're getting hit with a lot of a lot of unknowns. We've got tariffs coming down the line. We're going to have increased cost of parts. Insurance in the trucking space is one of the top four cost drivers for a trucker. So, I mean, how many other industries? There's very few that insurance is that big of a piece of your revenue or your expense. I think it's an excellent microcosm to be able to get really good at this. So when you talk about getting really good at it, what does that mean? And I think as in this space, a lot of people have gotten really good at delivering a policy or taking application information or rating within the black box. But the question is, what's the next horizon? And we move to trust as a service. And can we build on that with AI and other tools that allow us to really deliver more to the customer other than just a policy and an insurance bill?
Hmm. So what is it, or what are some of the problems, the unique problems that your primary target audience, these owner operators, are facing that you're really able to help them solve with your tech and data-driven approach?
In the trucking space, we see a lot of questions about, for instance, the filings. They have to do a lot of government regulations, a lot of filings around their units, their authorities. We also see this is a customer that's a B2B customer, but thinks and behaves very much like a B2C customer. So that means a lot of education, a lot of I don't want to say less sophisticated because they're very sophisticated, but they really need a lot of information about how their policies respond and the difference between policies. They also need rapid response. If they're at a dock trying to pick up a load and they don't have a certificate, they need it now, not a half an hour from now when somebody picks up their voicemail or checks their email and gets around to it. So it's a very service intensive space. It's a very education intensive space. And I think that's kind of where we get to with like trust as a service, right? We're not just pushing that information to them. We're reacting to their needs and trying to be a better partner in their business.
So it's a B2B clientele that you have, but almost they operate more like a B2C because they need this education. They need a little bit more attention. And you inject a lot of technology and you have big thoughts about AI. And this is a big part of what you do. But I also know that you put relationships and value relationships in business over anything else. Can you tell us a little bit about how that fusion of tech and relationships is something that you deliver on?
Absolutely. And it's huge. Our teams are very engaged in the customer's business. They call us all the time. They're on the road. They have a problem. Especially in our space, we are never going to 100% replace the people. And if nothing else, it's a security blanket. When one of our truckers has a baby, we're out there congratulating them, and we're trying to be engaged in life events. We're trying to be engaged in making their business successful. We're helping them hopefully succeed in what they're doing. And what AI and other tools do that allow us to do that is to free us up to have time to foster those relationships. I have never believed that technology was going to replace the relationship. I've always believed that technology was going to expand our capacity to have the relationships.
That's very interesting, right? It's really an enhancement over anything else, but fundamentally, it's the relationships and it's your clients that matter. Now, you're serving a hyper verticalized niche or area of the market, right? As you mentioned, land freight, is one of the biggest or the primary reliances on moving goods around, especially in North America and the US. With such a large market, what are some of the biggest challenges that you're facing when it comes to identifying the right target customers for Lucky Truck in the insurance space?
Sure. Right now underwriting has gotten so broad and there's so many dimensions to it because of technology that that's not always an easy answer. Now credit scores are big players, the type of equipment, the range, the type of commodities that they drive, the driving records. There's a lot of data that goes into pricing out, especially trucking policy. And that just is a breeding ground for opportunity around using AI and technology tools to not only identify customers where we've had large degrees of success, whether it be geography or size or whatever. Years in business, also a big player. In the transportation space during COVID, we saw a huge escalation in new entrants into the market. But post-COVID, almost 30% of that population dropped off and shuttered their businesses. So I think I'll give you an example. This morning, we were talking about, okay, with new tariffs coming in, what truck manufacturers are manufactured in the United States and what truck manufacturers are done offshore. And our insurance company is going to price higher for offshore manufactured units because they're going to cost more to repair because of the tariffs. Just questions like that. And I think really it's all about asking questions, always asking questions and using the data to provide at least some of those solutions.
So you're more or less targeting your ideal clients and who it is you would like to work with. But how is it that you attract the right clients, right? Because it is a massive market. There are some great things that you can do and that you can offer, but how is it that you make yourself known in such a vast ocean of competition?
That's it's an ever changing issue or answer. We have to be visible on social media. We have to be, all your traditional methods. We have to be talking, again, educating customers, huge, huge piece. We've got probably between 1 million and 1.3 million potential trucking customers out there in the United States. So it's about repetition. It's about touching them. It's about omni-channel presence. And again, it's about being relevant. We can't just go out there and say, get a quote. We have to really get smart about, we have to go where our customers go. We have to address the issues that are concerning them and capture their attention that way, and then provide them with it.
So what's next for Lucky Truck? What is it that you're working towards with this in mind? You know what's important to your clients. You know what you want to provide to them and how, and you know what need you're filling in the market. What's coming next?
I think the next horizon is really deployment of AI. I think, unfortunately, I think deployment of AI in the context of Lucky Truck is going to be, a partial solution. I think we need to work with the insurance companies because I think that's where the quantum change is going to happen.
Hmm.
And I say that because right now we've got a platform that can quote, issue premium finance all in one transaction. Our biggest obstacle is insurance companies not being ready to work that API to connect and deliver in that fashion. So I think as distributors, we'll always have some success in a digital space, but massive shift won't happen until your insurers really make quantum moves in the digital space. What's holding them back, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, is the fact that legacy system transformation has been a costly, time-consuming, and in some cases risky proposition for them. I think with AI, the path to competency around that, the timeline, the cost, everything will shorten. And I think we're going to see the floodgates open, or at least I'm hoping.
What do you think the solution is, or what do you think maybe the driver will be for these larger insurance companies and providers to actually start using AI and to make that quantum leap from where they are right now with legacy systems to the modern world?
So, I think there's been a life cycle in the go-to market strategy of insurance companies. And I think right now, again, I think we're on a cusp of a major change, a major shift. And I think they're questioning all their go-to market strategies. I think they are looking for distribution that is agile, that is not hugely capital intensive, that has a lot of focused reach. And I predict that they will be launching some very, very robust experiments in this space. So they're going to be looking for verticalized, highly focused, smaller teams and smaller environments to begin to try to start these transitions.
Sounds like with what you're saying, maybe that's exactly why you're taking some of the actions you are at Lucky Truck to position yourself to be ready for when these larger providers are looking for just what you mentioned, and just as it
Absolutely.
sounds like you are. That's fantastic. So it sounds like you're preparing for big things to come, right? You recognize right now that the larger legacy insurance providers are getting closer to that point where they're ready to make a quantum leap. So you'll be prepared for when that happens when it comes to AI. But within Lucky Truck right now, what sort of AI initiatives are you starting to implement or getting closer to taking action on?
So I think right now the biggest challenge in this space for someone like Lucky Truck or anyone else is finding the right partner and making the right AI deployment decisions. So what do I mean by that? I probably get 5 emails a day, somebody wanting to sell me AI services. Some of them aren't even really AI services. So looking for that long-term partner who has the credentials, the resources, the know-how to serve my business on the first project and build it in a way that is a platform for expansion into further AI development. I think there's a lot of services out there that are branding themselves AI that are not. They're pop-up, people who have figured one or two things out and now call themselves an AI expert. I think that is very, very dangerous. And I also I know that it's a mistake to buy a whole bunch of point solutions. So do I employ an AI firm to do prospecting and another AI firm to build processes and another AI firm to do whatever? So the process I'm going through right now is trying to make decisions around an AI roadmap that builds upon each solution, right? That expands the first deployment into the next, into the next, into the next, and does so cohesively, and find a partner who's capable, who has at least some track record and, the best probability of success, because I don't want to make any cheap, quick decisions that'll, impair us for the next foreseeable future.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of noise out there, right? As you mentioned, there's a lot of people coming to you trying to sell you services who call themselves AI, and maybe they're not even fully. Maybe there's just little pieces there. And then maybe there's some bigger options as well that you're considering that provide too many options and there isn't real value for you all across the board. But maybe you're considering, what's the right approach to take? How do you sift through all of the noise and decipher what's actually worth your time?
Well, the conversations with most AI firms typically go like this. Yeah, we can do AI. Tell us what you want us to do. And I'm like, tell me what you can do, right? I am stepping back and I'm looking at what the business needs to move the needle the most. Now, there's low hanging fruit. There's easy things that we could do. But if I, implement AI to do, say, issuing certificates or something like that, is that going to make how big of a difference is that going to make in my business, my bottom line? It'll make maybe save some expense, but it's not going to get me the hockey stick increase on customers I want. So I have to step back, and as a leader, I've stepped back and identified the 3 most critical pieces of my business, and then see if I can deploy AI to help us meet those objectives.
Could you share what those critical pieces are, just in case anyone's listening, thinking, how do I decide what's the most critical piece of my business?
Well, I think like any business, it's going to be, top line revenue, retention. And then in the trucking space, it's also, cancellation. Truckers can't pay their bills a lot. I'm sorry to say that. You know what I mean? So we have a lot of cancellation reinstatement. It takes a lot of time, a lot of work. And it's a challenge when figuring out the bottom line. So, so one of those examples may be, how can I deploy AI to proactively figure out the probability of cancellation, who I have to be proactive around, how to create different ways to keep people's insurance in place or help them keep their insurance in place so that we avoid those kind of things. So that's one of the things I'm looking at. Obviously, new customer acquisition, always important, but the right customer. I mean, I can use AI to get, thousands of leads in the door, but at the end of the day, my hit rate goes down and my people spend a ton of time quoting. So getting the right leads in the door, really, really important. Things like that.
So it sounds like you're really bullish on AI and tech, right? It's something that you're really interested in. You have some great thoughts. You've spent a lot of time not just thinking about how it's going to be applicable and advantageous to your own company, right? But how the insurance industry in general is going to start making this quantum leap and start incorporating in everything, just to make the industry as a whole more effective, more accessible, and better across the board. But you also have some very real concerns, maybe not doubts, but perhaps some hesitations about using AI, when to use it and how to use it, right? How is it that you would explain this maybe sense of not full duality, but these two conflicting thoughts to someone who's in your similar position, looking at, I want to use AI, but I'm not sure how. How do you actually rationalize when is the right time? What is the right initiative to pursue, while minimizing or reducing risk to implementing a new system or a new technology?
Well, you've just summed up the entire sum of my job, is trying to figure those things out and balance risks and rewards. I mean, that's what we do every day. AI, it's like anything else. It's, if it's a great tool, if used appropriately, can make massive changes. I don't think I have hesitation around it. I want to I think it's important that as a leader of a company, that I am planning appropriately, that I am maximizing our investment, and most importantly, that whatever AI process I put in place, it's correct. If AI begins advising customers, I have to be much more comfortable and much more careful about that. If AI just, transfers information from point A to point B, okay, not as much risk, right? So when we talk about it, I think the next generation And the next generation of our evolution, I don't want to categorize as AI. I want to categorize it as trust as a service, which is powered by AI. AI is the tool to get us there. And in order for technology to go beyond being transactional and to begin being a trusted resource for insurance customers, we have to have AI and tools and processes and get human intervention at the right place. We have to train our systems not only to answer a static question, but to anticipate changes in business and things like that, and proactively ask the customer, hey, are you concerned about this? Or, hey, maybe you need this, or you told me this, to make deductions. And I think we have to make the investment in time, and that's hard to do. We have to make the investment in educating and letting the AI learn. It does that well, or we break trust. Does that make sense?
So yeah, I mean, trust is the most important thing through insurance. And if you're not implementing AI in the right way, you're going to break trust, whether it's because people aren't getting the right documents, they're receiving the wrong information. Even if someone's trying to use it for quoting and you mess that up, like your client, the policyholder at the end of the day is going to be the one who's impacted the most, right? Especially if it's just a few here and there, or things might slip between the cracks. So, I mean, if you risk ruining the foundation of trust, you risk ruining your company.
We can go so far as to actually make the AI responses and its interaction empathetic and proactive. And those are all the things that are going to make a difference.
So, with all of that said, for insurance professionals or, other leaders listening who might feel overwhelmed by AI options as you are at times, being hit from all angles with different people coming at you, what would a practical first step be for them to take?
I really think the first step, and this sounds so basic, but understand your own roadmap. Don't let other, I'm the biggest offender of being distracted by the new shiny thing. Step back, understand your own business roadmap, independent of AI, and then figure out how you can use AI as a tool. Don't react to the new shiny thing and just decide that, you're going to start putting it in there. Be very strategic about it, because the decisions you make right now about this are going to set the tone for your organization for a very long time. So it sounds like
maybe more of a focus on strategy rather than tactics. Focus on your strategy. Where are you going? And then how are you going to employ tactics along the way, rather than jumping into a tactic without understanding where it actually contributes?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's incredible. Julie, thank you so much for these thoughts. Thank you for your insight and sharing your experience and your opinions with the audience as well. For any listeners who might like to connect with you to learn more about Lucky Truck or to continue this conversation, what would be the best way to connect?
Julie.Zimmer@luckytruck.com.
Amazing. That was great. Thank you so much for joining the show today.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
And to the listeners, thank you for tuning into the Echelon AI podcast. As always, I hope this episode has brought you valuable insight, knowledge, and inspiration. If it did, please, would you show your support by dropping a like on this video and subscribing to the channel? Until next time, we're signing off.